The concept of a currency's sudden irrelevance has haunted societies throughout history, emerging not as an abrupt catastrophe but as a gradual erosion of confidence that reshapes daily existence. In ancient civilizations and contemporary states alike, the breakdown of monetary systems has stemmed from deeper structural flaws, overextension of empires, wartime debts, or misguided policies that culminate in widespread doubt about a currency's reliability. This doubt, once it takes root, spreads like a contagion, affecting everyone from merchants to monarchs, and forcing a reevaluation of what constitutes true value in human exchanges. To grasp the implications of a monetary system's failure, consider money's fundamental role as a social construct rooted in mutual assurance. Far from being mere physical artifacts or electronic entries, it represents a pact among individuals and institutions that a given medium will facilitate trade, store worth over time, and measure obligations. When this pact holds firm, it enables vast endeavors, funding explorations, sustaining populations through famines, or constructing monumental infrastructure. Yet, history reveals that when external pressures undermine this assurance, through excessive issuance, political upheaval, or resource shortages, no authority can swiftly mend the fracture. The long-term consequences often include fragmented economies, where regions revert to self-sufficiency, and social hierarchies shift as those with alternative assets gain prominence. Reflect on the Roman Empire's monetary decline in the 3rd and 4th centuries, a period marked by imperial overreach and incessant military campaigns that depleted treasuries. Emperors, facing fiscal shortfalls from endless wars and bureaucratic expansion, resorted to diluting silver denarii with cheaper alloys, a practice known as debasement. This caused prices to soar as the currency's intrinsic value diminished, leading bakers and farmers to insist on direct trades, grain for tools, livestock for clothing, rather than accepting coins that might lose worth by day's end. Ordinary citizens, already burdened by taxes and conscription, experienced growing uncertainty. Families hoarded essentials, fearing that their savings would evaporate, while traders navigated rising risks in long-distance commerce. The empire's cohesion suffered, contributing to its eventual fragmentation into smaller barter-based domains, where local lords wielded power through control of tangible resources. This debasement not only accelerated Rome's fall, but also set a precedent for how monetary instability can exacerbate political divisions, paving the way for centuries of economic localization in Europe. Shifting to more recent eras, the hyperinflation in Germany's Weimar Republic during the early 1920s illustrates the devastating chain reactions triggered by post-war reparations and internal strife. Burdened by the Treaty of Versailles' demands, the government printed marks at an accelerating pace to meet obligations, igniting a cycle where prices escalated exponentially, doubling every few days by 1923. Workers, paid multiple times daily to outpace devaluation, rushed to markets with stacks of banknotes, only to find that a fortune in paper barely sufficed for basic provisions. Families grappled with profound anxiety as lifelong savings dissolved into insignificance. Pensioners, once secure, bartered heirlooms for sustenance, while children witnessed parents' desperation in hauling currency-laden baskets. This episode not only eroded public faith in institutions, but also fueled social unrest, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies that reshaped global politics in the following decades. The long-term ripple effects included a reevaluation of international debt structures, influencing post-World War II financial frameworks like the Bretton Woods system. Similar dynamics unfolded in Zimbabwe during the late 2000s, where land reforms and political isolation led to rampant money printing to fund deficits, resulting in notes denominated in trillions that held minimal purchasing power. Citizens, confronting empty stores and skyrocketing costs, turned to informal exchanges, swapping services like hairdressing for meals or using foreign dollars smuggled from abroad. The pressure on everyday people was immense. Farmers abandoned cash crops for subsistence farming amid fears of confiscation, and urban dwellers faced the humiliation of worthless wages, fostering a climate of suspicion toward authorities. This crisis extended beyond borders, destabilizing regional trade and prompting migrations, while highlighting how resource mismanagement can perpetuate cycles of poverty long after stabilization efforts begin. In Venezuela's ongoing economic turmoil since the 2010s, oil price collapses combined with policy missteps to devalue the bolivar, pushing communities toward cross-border smuggling and barter systems, exchanging medical care for fuel or personal items for food staples. Leaders, under immense strain to maintain control, implemented controls that often backfired, heightening public disillusionment. For the average family, this meant constant adaptation amid scarcity. Parents skipping meals to feed children, workers enduring long queues for subsidized goods, and a pervasive sense of vulnerability that eroded social bonds. The broader impact has been a humanitarian exodus, with millions seeking stability elsewhere, underscoring how monetary failures can trigger demographic shifts with enduring geopolitical consequences. Should such a disintegration occur in a powerhouse like the United States or the Eurozone today, the interconnected global economy would amplify the fallout. Modern supply networks rely on seamless, trust-dependent payments. Their disruption could halt shipments, empty warehouses, and strand goods at ports within weeks. Contracts denominated in the afflicted currency would lose enforceability, while digital banking, vulnerable to account freezes during panics, might seize up, leaving individuals stranded without access to funds. Psychologically, this would shatter assumptions built over decades. Retirees discovering pensions unreliable, young professionals facing stalled careers, and communities contending with heightened tensions as inequalities widen. Historically, these scenarios have prompted surges in alternative mediums. During Argentina's recurrent devaluations, U.S. dollars provided a stable refuge, allowing savers to preserve value amid volatility. In Russia's 1990s ruble crisis, following the Soviet dissolution, people pivoted to bartering durable goods or holding euros, reflecting a pragmatic response born of survival instincts. Alternative assets have often emerged as lifelines in these voids. Gold, with its millennia-old appeal from pharaonic tombs to contemporary vaults, endures due to its scarcity and universal acceptance, impervious to inflationary whims. During the U.S. Great Depression of the 1930s, as banks shuttered and deposits vanished, those holding gold navigated scarcity with greater ease, until government interventions like the 1933 confiscation order reminded citizens of authorities' reach in crises. Yet, gold's drawbacks, its bulkiness and regulatory risks, highlight limitations. In the Soviet Union's 1991 implosion, jewelry and coins facilitated underground trades for necessities, but mobility issues constrained their use. Cryptocurrencies, a newer contender, offer decentralized promise but depend on infrastructure like power grids and networks, which falter in widespread breakdowns. In nations with restrictive capital flows, they've enabled discrete transfers, aiding families in sending remittances despite controls. However, in a comprehensive currency void, they'd integrate unevenly into patchwork economies, competing with established fallbacks. Envisioning the immediate aftermath of a currency's obsolescence reveals a trajectory from disarray to reconfiguration. Initial shortages would spur rushes on staples, with stations and shops imposing restrictions or rejecting old notes, compelling neighbors to forge ad hoc trades, a plumber offering services for produce, a teacher exchanging knowledge for shelter repairs. Black markets would proliferate for essentials, not luxuries, as trust in institutions waned. Over months, emergent systems might arise, regional scripts from trusted entities, or dominance by stable foreign currencies, as seen in post-Yugoslav states where the Deutsche Mark filled voids in the 1990s. In today's landscape, tech giants could introduce asset-backed digital tokens, challenging state monopolies and accelerating central banks' push for official digital currencies to retain influence. At its core, monetary control intertwines with societal governance. Its loss invites power vacuums filled by diverse actors, from warlords in antiquity to multilateral bodies like the IMF in modernity, imposing conditions for aid. For individuals, historical precedents emphasize resilience through diversification. Beyond financial instruments, cultivating skills, amassing practical assets, or nurturing reliable networks proves vital. Those who fared best in past upheavals anticipated erosion through rising debts, unchecked inflation, or governance lapses, and acted accordingly, preserving autonomy amid resets. Economic history teaches that monetary systems, while robust in prosperity, remain susceptible to human frailties like greed and oversight. When they falter, societies adapt, but the process exacts heavy tolls on the vulnerable, reshaping futures in unforeseen ways. Reflecting on these patterns encourages a grounded appreciation for wealth's fragility, urging preparation rooted in tangible realities over ephemeral promises.